But let's first start out though with this amnesty issue, and let Doug, riff on it, because it's something I want to get clear about too. So go ahead.
I guess the only thing about the amnesty issue, like I said, is just if there's someone is amnestied, the whole NBA gets a chance to bid if you are under the salary cap. So the Bulls and Miami Heat, I guess, would be the two teams we care most about, and neither of them can bid on amnesty people. And so in that sense, the amnesty provision is more or less useless to us, because anyone who doesn't completely suck and isn't completely worthless will never make it past the bidding process, because you only need to bid any minimum amount of money for a guy, and then the highest bidder wins him. So if Minnesota bids $1 million on Brandon Roy and no one bids more than $1 million, they take on his contract for $1 million. And, the only way we would get him is if no one was even willing to bid the minimum on someone like Brandon Roy. And that's probably not going to happen, because certainly I think all of us would take the chance on Brandon Roy at the minimum, and some team under the cap will as well. So anyone worth anything is not going to make it through the amnesty waiver process. So there's no sense in worrying about amnesty people.
Doug, is this just a cap thing? So then this is just based upon teams that are under the cap get to bid for the services, teams that are over the cap don't?
Correct.
And then is there any sort of preference given to any team? Is it just based upon money? Pretty much every team under the cap can bid, and whoever can make the highest bid under the cap wins?
That's my understanding. Certainly the CBA hasn't been completely finalized. It sounded like there was supposed to be some type of ordering based on either record or whatever, but then they also said it's the highest bid gets him. And then if you bid, say, $2 million, the team that waived the player basically gets that money saved. So the player doesn't get an extra $2 million like they did the last time. Instead, the $2 million goes towards the salary he's already making.
Okay, so the player still gets paid his contract. It just doesn't count towards that team's salary cap.
Yes. So
okay.
if like Brandon Roy is making $15 million and he gets amnestied, and someone bids say $3 million on him,
Portland's responsible for 12 then.
Yes, and the Blazers would be 12, and the new team would be 3.
And that 3 goes towards their cap number.
Yes.
All right. So hypothetical along these same lines regarding amnesty. And next year, I'm assuming this is going to continue throughout the whole length of this collective bargaining agreement.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Let's say Boozer has another year like he did this year, or even worse. Let's say he just completely, just falls apart as a basketball player. Could the Bulls amnesty him and remove his entire salary from the salary cap?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. I have one other quick question before I forget about it, because I've been wanting to ask somebody about this, and you obviously know. So Boozer has 4 years left on his deal, right? 12, 13, 14, and 15. Year 2015, right? He's signed for 4 more years. So
yes.
if the Bulls were to release him after this year, and say the scenario Fred just laid out comes true, which I hope it doesn't. But say the Bulls let him go, and this could be in regards to any other NBA team too. So you use the amnesty rule. Let's say you get rid of Boozer. Can the Bulls not use that amnesty rule again until Boozer's contract would have expired?
They can't use it again, period. Each team gets one use of the amnesty rule under this collective bargaining agreement.
Oh,
and the rule can only be applied to people who are presently under contract, and it can only be applied while they are on that team. So if we traded to get Brandon Roy, as an example, not after amnesty, but we just got him now at $17 million. We couldn't use the amnesty clause on him because he's no longer on the Blazers. If someone traded to get Carlos Boozer from us, they could not amnesty him later.
So you could do like a sign and trade and then just waive the guy or amnesty the guy.
In any new contract we sign, we could not amnesty that player. So if Derrick Rose gets an extension and then tears both his ACLs and is worthless, we could no longer amnesty him because he would be on a new extension. So it's only basically for the Bulls. They could amnesty Luol Deng or Carlos Boozer or Joakim Noah would be the only 3, big deals that would make any sense to amnesty at some point. And clearly it seems likely that they'll save that clause for Boozer later down the line.
Well, that means then that there will be no amnesties then 4 years out, after 4 years, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And you can only use it once, and you can only use it once in the entire length of the CBA, which is 10 years. I know they have an opt-out after, was it year 6? Either side can opt out, but only once during the whole length of the CBA, huh?
Yes, and I guess Joe Johnson would be the last guy who would potentially be amnestied, since he just signed a 6-year deal. So he's got 5 years left.
Right. So
That
in
thing is
essence,
waiting
what he's
right.
saying, you don't-
Atlanta's not using that thing at all. Atlanta's sitting on that thing and waiting.
The amnesty clause really isn't as great as people think either, though. I mean, you still have to pay the guy. So
right.
unless
Right.
you're in the luxury tax, what difference does it really make? And like for a team like the Bulls, even if Boozer kind of falls apart, do you really want to pay him $60 million?
If Howard's available,
Not get anything out of him?
if Howard's available, yeah. If he,
Right, Howard.
It would only be, though, for a cap situation. Like, you're amnestying him because it puts us under the cap enough where we can go out and sign a big player. But it doesn't seem like that would be the case anyway after we sign Derrick Rose. It doesn't seem like there's anything we could do after we give Derrick Rose what's he going to make, $16 million, $17 million a year? Once we give him that contract, it doesn't seem like we can amnesty anyone because we're going to be over the cap.
Yeah, it's really not that great for teams that are in bad shape, because I'm sure there's probably fans of small market teams thinking, oh, we can get rid of this player or this player, but if the team's in bad financial shape and they amnesty the guy, they're still responsible for paying him, so they're not going to necessarily take that $10 million of extra cap space, turn around and spend it on someone else.
Yeah, it's funny reading a lot of the amnesty articles. There was one written by ESPN, and they listed what they felt each team would do with the amnesty clause. And there was probably 15 teams that they'll absolutely amnesty someone. And I wrote my own amnesty article, and I think I had 5 guys I thought would be amnestied. And then even one of those, which was I had Rip Hamilton being amnestied, Detroit already basically said they're not going to amnesty Hamilton. And I just thought basically no one is going to get amnestied. Gilbert Arenas, Brandon Roy, Rip Hamilton, Luke Walton, and Desagana Jop were the only people I thought would be amnestied. And even on that list, I don't know. I thought Brandon Roy was even just a maybe. And it's just not going to happen too much. I think teams want to save it. And a lot of the teams who could amnesty someone, if they're under the cap, and they got all this extra cap room, there's no one to bid on. It's a terrible free agent class, and then they need to have a minimum salary of 85% of the cap. So if Washington amnesties Rashard Lewis, they're basically going to have to go spend another $10 million just to get up to the minimum, and there's really not great candidates to spend it on. And Rashard Lewis, maybe he's not worth $20 million, but he's still a decent player. So there's really no incentive for a lot of these contracts. People think for sure we're going to get amnestied. There's no incentive for the teams because they don't save any money.
Yeah. What about
that amnesty Rashard Lewis? He sucks. Rashard Lewis is so awful.
But he's got to be getting towards the end of his deal anyway.
Sure.
I think it's really only players.
He signed that
who are
in
just
the
cap killers.
07 offseason. He signed that deal, I believe. So I don't know.
He's got 2 years, this year and next year.
Oh, see, yeah, and that's the thing. If you only have a couple years left, you might as well just write out the 2 years instead of being stuck having to spend the money, like you said, Doug, on just to reach that minimum.
And it's got to be a team with an owner who's willing to lose money, who's willing to spend that money. And, Portland is a good example, maybe one who would be willing to do that. Dallas, I could see doing it. I can't, but, most of these guys are going to have, if they're going to do it in a team that doesn't have a lot of money, there's going to be some value from whoever they amnesty because they're going to want to be able to not have to pay the entire salary. The bid should be high enough where they're not going to pay the entire amount.
No.
It's a clause that definitely helps rich teams. Teams that are willing to, get rid of a guy just to get cap space back. Or it's a move that can help teams that are deep in the luxury tax. You can get a guy and just get out of your tax value.
So, Doug,
I think we all these questions for Doug because he knows so much about this, nuts and bolts of this. Now, I know you mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but current contracts right now, so anybody who signs a free agent deal starting December 9th, they're not eligible for that, like Nene?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I've been going through, there's this huge rumor now about Chris Paul somehow ending up with the Knicks, and Hollinger had a really good breakdown of why it's not going to happen. Could the Knicks use this rule to somehow get Chris Paul there in the next year? So that is really unlikely, right? Is that just sky talk? He'd be giving up $40 million.
It is pie in the sky talk, but the Knicks have basically only Amari and Carmelo on their cap next year. They could use this rule to amnesty Balkman and get another $2 million. But even if the salary cap rises next year, they couldn't offer Paul the max. Maybe Paul would play there for less. It's a possibility.
Okay.
But I think New Orleans is going to trade Paul this year, and they're just going to move on from that and get something back from him, and Paul will just sign an extension as part of that trade.
That's what it seems like to me. A lot of the rumors that have been coming out, which, by the way, it's so great to finally have NBA rumors back again. But it seems like over the first, ever since they signed the collective bargaining agreement, today was like the first day that I started seeing rumors all over the place. But you're seeing a lot of rumors too. You're seeing a lot of rumors now about Chris Paul. You're talking here about the Pacers right now, looking to get him, maybe the Clippers. It seems like teams are starting to, get the feels on for what he's worth and what Dwight Howard's worth as well. It's starting to sound like there's a decent chance. Chris Paul, you're reading a lot more about. There's got to be some meat to the rumors. If you're starting to read this team, that team, and the other team are talking to him. You were reading today about maybe Rondo for Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul's agents putting the word out there that Chris Paul didn't want to go to Boston and rebuild with the Celtics in a year. So it definitely seems like there's a good chance that Chris Paul will definitely go. If not, maybe Dwight Howard too. I mean, you're hearing a lot of rumbles too. Maybe the Clippers are going to go after him.
I think it makes a lot of sense for both of those guys to go to the Clippers. They could probably trade for one now and then sign the other next year. They'll have enough cap room to do that. And you start thinking, all right, we've got Blake Griffin, and then we have Chris Paul and Dwight Howard. You don't really need a whole lot else other than that. And then in the West,
He'd back up rims. Still need backup rims there with Blake Griffin and Dwight Howard.
Yeah, they'll have to have a bunch of them in there. It'd be like having, Shaq on your team back in the day.
Right.
Oh, and Chris Paul to get the ball to all of them. This whole super team theory is what it seems to me like within 3 years, the NBA is going to consist of 3 super teams. And just everybody's just trying to get together right now and figure out what those super teams are going to be. But it seems, whatever, the Knicks obviously are maybe a player away, though I think, it's just Carmelo Anthony, I think, is such a subpar superstar that it's like they would need so much more for that third guy to make them, an unbeatable team. But if you think about the Clippers, if the Clippers were able to get Dwight Howard and Chris Paul with Blake Griffin, that's a team that nobody can match up to. They'd match up just so unbelievably. Nobody would have a front court that could deal with that. I mean, if these guys think about it, if Chris Paul and Dwight Howard think about it and try to do anything to team up together, kind of like LeBron and Dwayne Wade did, the unique skills that they bring to a team, they could easily do the same sort of thing where all of a sudden you have the tide shifted and this other team is just a complete powerhouse.
Yeah, and Houston is another team that those two guys could go to. Houston will have enough cap room to sign both of them next offseason as well. So they would have a couple options if they wanted to team up. And, it seems like that's somewhat of a possibility. But I think so far, from what I've heard, it seems more of something that fans think makes sense. Chris Paul seems like he really wants to go to New York with Carmelo and Amari. I think he'd be better off actually teaming up with Dwight Howard and going to either Houston or the LA Clippers. I think he'd win more with those guys. I kind of agree with you. I don't think Carmelo's that great of a superstar. I don't trust Amari to stay healthy. Both those guys, either one of them wants to play defense. I don't see them really having a championship aura around them. Whereas, say what you want about LeBron and Dwayne Wade, but both those guys play tremendous defense and are, I think, committed to winning. Even though they annoy the piss out of me, I think that they would easily trump the trio in New York if Chris Paul went there.
Unfortunately for Miami fans, LeBron seems to be committed to playing flag football today. Did you hear about that? I mean,
Kevin Durant tweeted about playing flag football and found someone to go play flag football with, and everyone thought it was awesome. So I don't think
Durant and LeBron played against each other, I believe, tonight. It was streamed. That was the rumor I heard.
Flag football, huh?
They were playing flag football tonight. And I just thought of an onion type heading where both of them tear their ACLs.
Well, no, I think back. I don't know if you guys remember this. I can't remember who it was. It was a rookie running back or a second-year running back of the Miami Dolphins tore his knee to shreds in that sand flag football game. I think right before the Pro Bowl, 99 or 2000. I can't remember what his name was. He had a really good rookie year too, and his career was over pretty much after that. But yeah, I just think about that when I hear flag football.
Yeah, that was a horrific injury. He almost had his leg amputated. I remember that.
I'm gonna Google that right now while you guys talk.
No, you know what? Why don't we start out though with moving over to some Bulls conversation? And Doug, we had a big debate on this. So how about we give your point, I'll counterpoint, and then we'll hear Mark and Kush's input on the Luol Deng discussion in the playoffs last year in Miami. You seem to think he played really well. I disagreed. And why don't you give your opinion on Luol Deng, his performance against the Heat, and I'll follow up there, and then we'll hear what their take is on Luol. And I guess Is that?
I think really well is probably a stretch. I just said.
Do you remember when he said he was like the greatest thing since Pippen? I thought on that Saturday night. Saturday before.
Yeah. So then I lost the audio to that. Crazy. Basically, there's 4 guys on the Bulls are the main guys. We all kind of agree with that. There's Boozer, Noah, Dang, and Rose. And my only comment was, of the 4 guys, I thought Luol Deng played closest to the regular season. Derrick Rose shot 32% against the Heat. Boozer and Noah were like benched in the fourth quarter. Dang shot 40% from the three-point line, which is actually considerably better than the regular season. Regular field goal percentage dipped a teeny bit, but it was made up for by the improved three-point shooting. And he scored 17.2 points a game or something like that. It was just down like 0.2 from regular season. I thought his defense was very good. So I didn't think he was outstanding by any stretch. And I agree with your point. He didn't play great in the fourth quarters, but he was fairly close to what he gave you in the regular season. Joakim Noah was nowhere near what he gave you in the regular season. Carlos Boozer was nowhere near what he gave you in the regular season. And Derrick Rose, quite frankly, was nowhere near what he gave you in the regular season. And there's varying reasons for all those things. But Luol Deng was pretty much what he gave you in the regular season.
So my point is, and I think you would agree with me on this point, the Bulls have basically made their bed with 4 players, Noah, Deng, Boozer, and Rose. We don't have a lot of financial flexibility to bring in a realistic difference maker. I think you would agree with me. We're not going to see anybody come in who's really going to, be better than any of those 4. Is that right?
We'll see.
Okay. I tend to believe that the Bulls will be satisfied with the team as is, and they're going to come back with it. And I guess the question that started and led to this discussion is, can the Bulls win a title bringing back the team as is? I believe they can, but we need to see improvement from Luol Deng, even more so than Boozer and Noah. And the main reason for this was the Heat is going to be our competition. That's the team we have to beat. And in games 2 through 5 against the Heat, the 4 losses, Deng in the fourth quarter and overtime was 2 of 12, 0 for 5 from three-point line in 47 minutes. LeBron was 14 of 27, 3 for 5 from 3, and 13 of 15 from the free throw line. I can't tell you how many people I talked to after that series were all over Rose. They were all over Noah. They were all over Boozer. But to a man, most of them said, I thought Deng did a pretty good job on LeBron. And I just was shocked that he didn't take any heat. He did such a good job on him that LeBron was a unanimous choice for MVP of that series. He did such a good job in the fourth quarter that Rose was basically being double-teamed by perimeter defenders, albeit two of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA. And Deng needs to punish Miami. It's Deng, not Boozer or Noah, because the interior defenders were still on those 2 guys. It's Deng that needed to punish Miami for that, and he wasn't able to do it. He choked. And I just felt like he didn't take any heat. He should have taken a lot more heat. He performed terribly against that team in the fourth quarter in those losses. He had a great game 1, no denying that. I just expect him to play better. I want him to play better, and if we're going to beat the Heat, he needs to play better. That's
fine. But like I said, Derrick Rose shot 30%. If Derrick Rose shoots 32%, you're not going to beat the Heat ever. I don't care what happens with anyone else.
But doesn't he shoot
superstar player?
Doesn't he shoot 30%, 2% as a result of the other guys like Kyle Korver and Luol Deng not being able to come through?
No. Does Michael Jordan play with a bunch of just crap on a stick? Did he shoot 32% against the Celtics?
Well, that's Michael Jordan.
Okay, fine. But Derrick Rose is the MVP.
Derrick Rose isn't Michael Jordan.
You can't put little kid gloves on.
Derrick Rose is not Michael Jordan.
No, but he is your MVP.
So you
even Jordan.
No, he's not. I know he's not, but you can't compare him to Michael Jordan. So don't compare him to Michael Jordan.
I'm just saying he is the MVP of the league.
All right.
He's your superstar player. You can't.
We're not going to win unless he's our man.
But even let me just jump in here. Even Jordan, who is the greatest of all time, he was ready to win titles in '86. It took him until '90 for his teammates to stop having migraines that coincided with the biggest games of their lives, and for Horace Grant to stop crying in towels. He was still performing. His teammates weren't helping him, and that's why we kept on losing to the Pistons.
And Derrick Rose was isolated on LeBron and missing shots, game-winning shots. He was isolated on LeBron and missing game-winning shots. So, and he had good looks. I'm not saying Derrick Rose won't hit those looks next year, but you want to say what would have won the series would be Derrick Rose knocking down one of those game-winning jumpers that he was in one-on-one defense and just missed and had multiple chances.
The 6'8" defender who's one of the best who's probably one of the best defenders in the league. I'm not going to rip Derrick Rose.
He got his shot off. He got a
very difficult shot.
I gotta agree with you, Doug. I can't say. Derrick Rose had a phenomenal season last year, but he didn't have a great series against the Heat, I don't think. I mean, if you compare his series against the Heat to the majority of the regular season when he was just dominating teams, it was clear the last 2 rounds of the playoffs that he was on a bummed ankle. And, it's certainly an excuse, whatever. And, when we're comparing him to Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan in the playoffs didn't have really any injuries that ever really hampered his performance. When he came into the league, he was dealing with guys who were rookies and, Pippen and by like 88, he had like rookies on his team and guys that were trying to get better, that were going to get up to another level. And when you're comparing like to what Luol Deng did last year, Luol Deng's been on the team now for, this is like 7th year in the league. I mean, we know what we're going to get out of Luol Deng. I can't be upset if Luol Deng's giving us, in the playoffs, somewhere around 17 points a game and doing what his just general career averages are, being the same guy he's always been. We know what he is. We know
2 for 12 in the fourth.
If we're going to win the finals, we're going to win the finals because Derrick Rose gets us there. And if, it's either we got this team right now and Derrick Rose can elevate himself to make us so damn good that we can beat the Miami Heat and win a title, or we have to get somebody else on this team that can help us get up to that next level. Because at the moment, we were looking and it's like, okay, you got Noah, you got Boozer, you got Deng. Those are the best players on this team. Those guys all have to perform. When I look at why we didn't perform last year, it's clear to me Noah, Boozer, those 2 guys were not playing like them, and Rose too, obviously. The 3 of them were the main reason. I mean, we would certainly have been a different team in that Miami Heat series if the 3 of those guys were playing extremely well. But I don't think. Obviously, we need Rose this year when we're in the playoffs. Rose has to be 100%. That's the bottom line. Just for us, that's the starting point. If he's 100%, we can start even thinking about maybe beating the Heat and the things that we have to do to start competing with those teams.
What is Deng going 2 of 12 in the 4 losses in the fourth quarter? What does that say about his performance? The defense in quarters 1 through 3 by the Heat was drastically different than what you saw in the fourth. They're not doubling with Wade and LeBron James on Rose in quarters 1 through 3. They can't do it because they can't risk foul trouble for either one of those players. But you saw it in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter, I watched all those games over again. You saw a double team every time Derrick had the ball. You saw perimeter defenders, not interior slow center or forward who were guarding Noah and Boozer, but perimeter defenders doubling on Rose. That means the guy who has to punish them has to be a perimeter player. Right, it's not going to be Pete Bogans. It's not going to be Ronnie Brewer. It's got to be Luol Deng, and he performed like crap. 2 of 12 and 0 for 5 in the 3-point lane. 3-point line is inexcusable. And again, ask 9 out of 10 Bulls fans, how did Deng do against Miami? I thought he did great. I thought he was fantastic. He sucked.
I don't see anyone saying he was fantastic.
I'm not saying you're saying that, Doug.
I've never heard anyone say he's fantastic. And if anyone gets the Teflon treatment, it's Derrick Rose. Ask 10 Bull fans about Derrick Rose, and no one's going to rip on him for shooting 32%. Because
the Bulls would be nowhere. The Bulls would be nowhere near the position they would be in if it wasn't for Derrick Rose. That's what gets the Teflon treatment.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm saying we will never beat Miami if Rose does not play like he did in the regular season. We will never beat Miami with that performance from Rose. I understand why he was poor. He had a lot of pressure on him. He's a young guy, tremendous perimeter defense. I'm not blaming him for it, but we cannot win without him playing significantly better. If Luol Deng play better, we still probably lose.
Rose will play better if Deng doesn't go 0 for 5 from the 3-point line in the fourth quarter. That's my point.
His teammates need to play better for him to play better because you can't compare.
Would you not agree that LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are the 2 best perimeter defenders since Jordan and Pippen on the same team? Since that era, these guys are the 2 best perimeter defenders on the same team, and they're both double teaming Derrick Rose. They're both bigger than him. They're both stronger than him. He's not going to win that battle. Somebody else has to punish him for doing it.
I think you're overstating how much he got a Rose-LeBron double team. You make it sound like every time he walked up the court, both those guys leaped at him, and that was not the case.
No, it wasn't, but there is video, and I need to post it.
I'm not saying it never happened, but you make it sound like every single play that happened, It didn't cause Derrick Rose to go like 22% from the three-point line, shooting almost all wide open threes all series. It didn't. If he hit those, it would have changed the series. If he just hit like 40% of his wide open threes, totally different series, because then they would have had to play him entirely differently.
Right.
His three.
Anyway,
Yeah. His
I
You're
agree
right there.
Dang could do better. I just think when you have Boozer playing absolutely atrocious, like missing layups, and Joakim Noah not playing well at all, given that we had a massive advantage at center, but not being able to capitalize on it, and then Derrick Rose shooting 32%. Yeah, I would have liked to see Dang play better. I just see improvements could have been made on every single person on the roster. Kyle Korver shot like 28% for the series from the three-point line. I mean, a lot of guys could have just played better. Everyone could have played better. And Luol Deng hit his season averages, so he's not the guy that's first on my hit list. That's all. He can be on the hit list. He's just not first.
Kush, did you want to?
I think we had an unbelievable series against the Miami Heat, considering how crappy our team was playing at that stage of the season. I mean, I certainly think that the low point of our season came against those last 4 games against the Miami Heat. And yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, we still went down in 5 games, but at least we beat the crap out of them in 1 game. We were looking pretty damn competitive going into that series. But I think, I don't think we're putting enough emphasis here on the fact that Rose was injured. I mean, Rose didn't play it up. Kudos to him for not playing it up. But it certainly seemed like after he rolled his ankle against the Pacers that he wasn't the same player. And he certainly, that Heat series, he was not as explosive. He couldn't get his open shots, even if he was being double teamed by LeBron and Wade. It's apples to oranges the way that it's going to be this year when he comes back and he's healthy than the way that he was in that series. There was no question by game 3 of that series. It was clear this team just didn't have it.
You can say the same with Boozer too, with the injury. I mean, it was clear Boozer had no lift. I mean, he couldn't dunk. Mm-hmm. He was shooting layups. He just couldn't even dunk. So,
Kush, I'd like to ask this question. We'll go around the horn for this. If the Bulls come back with the team as is, plus their number 1 draft pick, do you think they could win the title?
No, they won't beat the Heat again this year. The Heat are going to be better. They're another year together. They're not going to get off to the slow start like they did last year. Therefore, they're going to have home court advantage. And if the Bulls couldn't beat them last year with home court advantage, they're not going to win a 7-game series with the Heat with games 1 and 2 in Miami. So, no, I don't think so.
Doug?
No chance. I agree with everything Brian just said.
Let's see. We got that one on tape. I'm going to save that one and put it on repeat on all my shows.
Mark?
I agree with everything Brian just said, too. It's just, we can't beat. There's no way we're going to beat the Heat.
Come on, Fred.
No, I disagree with all you. I really honestly believe the Bulls can win. If you look at how bad Boozer played, you look at how bad we all admitted, Rose didn't play up to his capabilities. Look, in my opinion, Dang was awful. Noah was just atrocious on the offensive end. I know Miami had a lot to do with it, but I just feel that the team, if we get some improvement from, especially the key thing is Dang being able to hit his 3-pointer at a better, higher rate. I was going through Dang's career, and I remember in 08, Mark, you might remember this, we went to that Cleveland game in 08 in the Jim Ball Boylan area, and he spent the whole 3rd quarter in the post, and it was just like a nightmare. I always said with Dang, 50% of the time you throw the ball in the Dang at the post, something bad's going to happen. And the Bulls forced him to go in the post. They told him to abandon his 3-point game. And I was kind of like blaming the Bulls for it. But if you think about it then, how the team was structured, you had Heinrich, you had Gordon. You didn't need Dang at the 3-point line. Bulls following the Rose. Well, suddenly you need Dang at the 3-point line. So I'm hoping that this additional focus on the 3-point game shows him some improvement. If he can get his percentages up to 36, 37, 38%.
Like when he shot 40% in that series?
And,
he's going to like 50%.
And over 5 in the 4th quarter.
That's a huge sample size. So what he shot like 60% the rest of the time?
In quarters 1, 2, 3, when he shot 60, and quarters 4, he shot 0%. If he can get his 0% up to 15% in the 4th quarter, that'd be an improvement.
If he makes 1-5, that'll completely turn things around.
It would have turned around one of those games. No, I just feel that there's the delta for the improvement on the offensive end for the core Bulls is so large that if we even get it to a certain degree, that's enough to put us over the edge with the Heat. I mean, we didn't lose every one of those games. If you look at it, especially Game 5, it's an atrocity. We lost that game. We should have won that game.
I agree with you. I guess my thought, and I think maybe this kind of get back to what Brian was saying, the Miami Heat are going to be a lot better. They're going to get probably Samuel Dalembert, in the offseason. So they're going to have a much more athletic, skilled center than they've had in the past. Dwayne Wade is not going to completely crap the bed for a full series again. And I just think Miami is going to be playing much better next playoffs too. I mean, Udonis Haslem missed the whole year last year, basically, and was just kind of a shell in the playoffs. They're going to have him integrated all year.
Maybe Miller doesn't break his thumb this year, and maybe he actually finds a shooting stroke again.
So,
but it doesn't matter what they do in the regular season. They had him for the playoffs against the Bulls. I mean, all that matters is who are they going to add? Who are they going to add? Who are they going to add? He played great. It's not like he was
played for one game.
Who played great? Dwayne Wade?
No. Haslem was awesome.
Sorry, Haslem. I was saying, what?
I mean, if they don't add anybody, who are they going to add?
Man, Samuel Dallenberg. I just told you.
Damn.
I still think. I mean, they certainly could add.
With Dallenberg, they might win 80. They might win 80.
80-2. Here we go.
Their ability to improve themselves is like the same as our ability to improve themselves, except for the fact that more players are probably willing to play there and take a pay cut, which is a huge advantage in their favor. But they were quite a bit above us last year in the playoffs. I certainly think we have to make a pretty gigantic step because I agree with everything you guys. Miami's going to get better too, so we're going to have to catch up that much more to try to catch up to where they're at. I mean, when you got Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, they're a great team. They're a great defensive team. They're not as deep as we are, but you're not going to win a title against this team just because we've got more depth.
Yeah, and odds are, Miami, they're not sitting around there saying, well, we might spend into the luxury tax. Miami's going to make whatever move it can make to improve. They're not going to sit there and hedge their bets and say, well, maybe we can come back with the same team and do okay. They're going to come back with everything they have.
It sounds like you're not as confident about the Bulls doing the same thing, Doug.
No.
Based on your articles the last few days.
I'm not confident at all. And Jerry Reinsdorf came out today and he said, he didn't say it, he said through a intermediary, he said, I'm willing to strongly consider paying the luxury tax for a move that gives us a reasonable chance at winning a championship.
Oh, now we're back to that.
And I just well, what the hell does that mean? I mean, okay, I'm sure if we could have Pau Gasol for expiring contracts, that move, he'd do it. But are you gonna? I don't want to hear that you might strongly consider it if it's a move that can win a title, because you're going to keep going backwards, farther and farther away, if you maintain this I won't spend into the luxury tax attitude. You need to make spend into the tax just to compete. And so I'm hoping they'll trade for Andre Iguodala, who I'm absolutely certain is available. And Ben Gordon would be another guy I would consider targeting, who I'm absolutely certain is available. Guys who have bad contracts but are way better than the guys they would replace on this team would give us a huge offensive boost. Those are the types of moves you should make. And then if you make that move, you have to be willing to still sign Omer Ashik when his contract is up next year, instead of saying, well, I'm not going to sign him because I'm already $5 million into the tax. Fuck that. You've made over $1 billion on this franchise.
I love it.
Give some of the damn money back. I bet Reinsdorf paid $80 million on the Bulls last year. If he goes into luxury tax by $15 million, he's still going to make $40 million. It's not like I'm asking the guy to not be profitable. I'm saying just freaking cut that in half.
Oh, come on, Doug, we're not going to go PG now, buddy. Come on. Let him fly. Let the bombs fly.
I just want to apologize to my nephew who listens to the show. That's not the proper language to use.
DT, DT, you're the cat man, DT. So I have a quick question for you and how this CBA affects the Bulls and their salary cap. How does this new agreement affect the Bulls' ability to re-sign Taj Gibson?
Well, in general, they put in the Derrick Rose rule. I don't know if you heard about that.
Right.
So Derrick is now going to get a 30% contract instead of a 25% max contract. So he's making an extra $3.5 million a year. The Bulls are basically going to be sitting at the luxury tax barrier if they don't do anything in 2 years. And if they want to even just keep kind of guys they have, they'll be over it. Right. So it's going to be difficult for them to keep Omer and for Taj. I wrote an article in the summer back when, or I guess in the lockout when no one was actually reading, saying it's going to be so difficult to keep Taj and Omer, both of them, that if you can use one of them to upgrade your shooting guard position, it makes a lot of sense to do so, just because you're probably not going to keep them both anyway.
Right.
So why not trade a guy and then get value for him and improve your starting lineup now? And if we're still only going to be this, I'm going to dip my toe in luxury tax, like maybe I'll spend $75 million and pay $4 million of tax. Yeah, if we're still in that scenario, then I think it makes sense to move one of Gibson or Omer to get the best shooting guard we can.
I don't know. As far as the luxury tax goes, I think it's a slippery slope. And I've always respected Reinsdorf's philosophy of if it's not a move that's going to put us over the top. And you hear all the time about about when we could have gotten Pau Gasol and how he went to Paxson and he said, is this a move that's going to make us win the championship? And Paxson said no. So they never made a move to get Pau Gasol. And I understood that at the time. This was 2-3 years ago when, would Pau Gasol have put us in a position to win? No. So once you're in luxury tax, it's a lot harder to do things, and it's harder to get out of the luxury tax. Once you're in it, your flexibility to make moves is significantly hampered. If you make a move, whether it's to make a move, just to make a move, or if you get into the tax and you still have significant things that you have to remedy on your team, it's very hard to do those things. So I have no problem with them being extremely cautious. I think as a whole, teams that are more cautious with their money end up being better than teams that are less cautious. You see, obviously teams like Miami are spending a buttload of cash on their players, but look at who they got on their teams. A lot of other teams have thrown out bad contract after bad contract. It's like, yeah, they spend a lot of money. That's why I think it took Dallas so long to win. They were spending millions and millions of dollars every year on their talent. They were always in the luxury tax. They were always just swapping contract for contracts. They got lucky last year that, Chandler kind of panned out. And you had a couple other guys who panned out a little bit, as the playoffs went on. But it's, I think.
Where is Dallas if they aren't in the luxury tax?
Exactly.
They don't have a ring. That's for damn sure.
I remember. I thought the Mavericks were crazy when they re-signed Jason Kidd, and then if they wouldn't have been able to if they were worried about luxury tax. It ended up being the right move. I was wrong. Sure. I thought Kidd was over. I'm like, why would you re-sign? What was it at the time? 36 years old when he signed the 3-year deal, and I was like, what?
I think Dallas has had 13 straight seasons of 50-plus wins. I think it's the worst possible example to give for a team that's, if you're going to go into luxury tax, it guarantees you're going to be competing for a title every year.
How many titles would the Phoenix Suns have if they're willing to pay the luxury tax right now?
That's a good. There you go.
They got rid of Phil Johnson because they didn't want to pay the luxury tax. Mm-hmm. They got rid of just tons of good players because they couldn't pay the luxury tax. If they're willing to pay the luxury tax, Phoenix would probably have 2 rings. But they're cheap.
Is that why they didn't keep Barbosa either?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
We're kidding ourselves. They're not going to go into luxury tax. We got to win it with this title. We got to win a title with this team and Jimmy Butler. That's what we have to do.
Jimmy Butler, baby. The Butler did it. Come on.
I think
the Butler did it. Yeah, there we go. Hey, that's what I do. The first thing,
they just won't go far into it.
The first thing I do is promote Brewer to starting guard, put Butler's back up, and keep Bogans as a third string shooting guard. I think we're better. I don't get why everybody thinks we're that so far away. I don't think it's. I still think we're a really damn good team.
We're a really good team. We're just not going to win the whole thing.
Well,
Fred,
we'll be like the second best team in the league. It's really good.
All right. If the Heat come out and have a great regular season, they have home court advantage. How confident are you in the Bulls going into Miami for games 1 and 2? And
I don't think it matters.
Really?
I don't think it matters. I thought the Bulls played their best games in Miami. After the first game,
not counting game 1.
Not counting game.
Okay.
At game 5, where you said it was a draft.
Yeah, that's true. Not counting games 1 and 5. The Bulls played lights out in Miami. They're by far the best.
Hey, Kush, you gotta let me finish my sentence.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Not counting games 1 and 5.
Okay. There we go. Sorry. In the regular season game they won in Miami, I think they got lucky because I thought any other scenario, I still can't believe they didn't call Luol Deng for a foul. What was it with loose ball foul on? Was it Wade? And they didn't call the foul? I thought he would have got called for that and sent Wade to the line, but it didn't happen. I think it ended up being a turnover or something. I can't remember exactly. But they barely won the regular season game, too. So I'm not too confident about the Bulls playing in Miami, especially with all those white shirts.
I know you can't depend on this, but,
those fans will get distracting.
Wayne Wade's getting older, and he does have an injury history. I just can't see him, so much is dependent on him, LeBron, those two guys to really bring that team to the level they're playing at. Every time they go into an arena, they got a huge target on their back. And I thought that they had to me, the record was astounding last year, considering that every place they went to, you had a stadium full of people that wanted to see them lose, just going nuts against them. I don't know if it's going to be the same way this year. Probably will be something similar, but I just think that's got to wear on somebody. And I really firmly believe that. I don't think he's going to be healthy all year. Now that said, what are
I
the
hope
odds?
not.
Probably 1 in a trillion that Dang's going to be healthy, especially if he plays, 40-plus minutes a game. That's the first thing I'd sit Thibodeau down and say, hey, take a look at this guy's injury history. You might want
So
to
you'd sit him
cut
down.
back his minutes a little bit.
Have a seat, Tom. Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you a story about 2009.
It'll start out with, hey, Tom Thibodeau, even though you love Luol Deng, I hate him. I rip on him at every opportunity possible, and I'm still bitter about the fact we kept him instead of Ben Gordon.
What
So I think you should punish him in some type of way.
Fred,
Maybe
what
just
is it?
whip him or hit him with a brick or something.
What is it with
That'd
you
make
and
me
Chicago
happy.
Bulls?
Sincerely,
small
Fred
forwards?
Pfeiffer.
Do you like yes? Do you like any Chicago Bulls small forwards, Fred? I think it's a small forward.
I like Kuch. I love Kukoc. He's one of my favorites.
So, okay.
I liked. Let me think.
You like
who else-
Pippen?
Yeah, I like Pippen. I thought.
Okay, I'm just curious to throw out the obvious.
You had to
one.
throw out the migraine headache, even though this is a podcast talking about the 2011-12 Bulls. You had to throw in the migraine. You had to work the migraine headache in there, even though it's the most overblown. Never mind.
Kush, I made a good point on that one. Just everybody in the listening audience who doesn't understand my point on this, who hasn't heard it
I shouldn't
before.
open up this can of worms. Sorry.
Every person I know who has migraine headaches, I know it's a serious issue, but it's a problem that's chronic. It happens every day. Scottie
Selling
Pippen's
medication?
migraine.
What's going on?
Scottie Pippen's
It
migraine
cause heart
headache.
attack, bowel movements. Go ahead. Sorry.
Scottie Pippen's migraine headache happened to coincide with Game 7 of the most important game of his life up to that point against the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. He didn't have a migraine headache. I mean, he probably had a headache, but it was more of a case of, oops, I crapped my pants because it's a huge game and I just choked.
Was
That's
Game
what-
6 not important when the Bulls were facing elimination at the stadium? He played. Scottie Pippen up until Game 7 probably had about 25, 26 career games against the Pistons. Why all of a sudden would he get scared in Game 7?
Because Game 7 was the elimination game.
So was Game
That's
6.
the game- Yeah, but that game, there was a lot less to lose because this one they could actually win it. They couldn't win it by winning Game 6.
Yeah, but either
They
way,
could
you
win
go
it.
home, though.
Kush, I'm right on this one.
All right.
Deep down,
won
I-
Yes, I
six
agree.
titles, man.
I agree with you,
He
Fred.
won 6 titles after that. The fact that you still carry that stain on your heart is unbelievable.
You should have had 7. Now let's go on to
At
Will-
least if it was like something that happened in like 2002 or something at the end of his career, it's like, okay, this is like the lasting impression that he left with you. But I would think that the things that he did after that would be the things that you kept burnt in your memory.
Oh, you mean like comparing LeBron to Michael? That was a good
Oh,
one. too.
yeah. Well, I get to that one. That was. Yeah.
So Scottie Pippen is on your Luol Deng list.
No, I love
Of
I
guys
love,
you irrationally hate, but then you say you like them just so people don't rip on you.
no, I love Pippen. Pippen's awesome. He's the best defender I ever saw.
Fred
Now-
Pfeiffer, the Mitt Romney of this podcast.
Let me just make a point. Let me just make a point though of what you're saying, Doug, about how Coach always loves Dang. When you get hired by an organization and you come in, what are you going to say? Well, what possible good could have been true? What possible good could have come out of Coach talking the truth about Dang? That he's a overpaid, slightly above average NBA player. What good's going to come out of that? Of course, you're going to overstate how important he is to the team. Of course, you're going to say how.
Is this
great-
your theory where Tom Thibodeau really wants Ben Gordon, but just is stuck saying nice things about Luol Deng because of the situation?
No, I'm just saying.
Let's move on.
All right, it's
Let's
nauseating.
just move on. Come on,
Oh,
Tom
understand.
Thibodeau loves Luol Deng.
Well, why don't we make up predictions for the season? Mark, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
First of all, let me just say how.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Let me also say
No,
how.
actually, I do have one thing. There's one thing I want to add. Who should we get in free agency? That's a big thing that I think we got to throw out there that we haven't touched yet. Doug, I wanted to ask you: is there any chance in the world that we could get Dwight Howard? Is there any chance?
0%
Zero?
chance. He doesn't want to come to Chicago. He would only come here if he forced his way here. He doesn't want to come here, so he's not going to force his way here. There's no chance.
Why would he not want to come here? It's a great city.
There's a lot of reasons why he should want to come here, but those aren't the reasons in his mind. So
It's a great city.
suffice it to say,
Italian
he
beefs, you know.
he does not want to come here. He does not want to be in a city where he knows Derrick Rose will forever be like the team, and he won't be. And he doesn't want to go to a cold weather city. So,
You should stay in Orlando then, right?
well, I think he'll probably try to go to L.A. Would be my guess.
LA Lakers, where he'd be overshadowed by Kobe.
By a declining Kobe, I think that Kobe would
Be
pass
his
the torch
team in
to
2
him.
years. Yeah, it'd be
So-
his team in 2 years.
Oh, you're talking about being overshadowed the entire length because him and Rose would be okay. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
no matter how long he's here, it'll always be Rose's team because Rose is from Chicago. Rose was here first. Rose was the MVP here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and Rose will always be the go-to scorer at the end because Dwight Howard will never do that. So,
I see.
you know, he'll just never. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that's the whole thing, but I've heard from multiple sources, besides even just the public press, that Dwight Howard does not want to come here.
We know. Yeah, I mean, we know Dwight Howard's going to go to the Lakers because every time there's a major free agent, I mean, the Lakers are probably the luckiest franchise in the history of professional sports. Of course, they're going to end up with Dwight Howard. I know that. Of course.
Then Kobe could go to win 3 more finals where he's not the Finals MVP.
I mean, the Lakers win what 55 games in 1979, end up with the number 1 pick, win the championship in '82, end up with the number 1 pick. You know, get Paul Gasol for a bag of balls. Well, actually, I guess Marc Gasol ended up being a solid player, but at the time we didn't think that. And
didn't we get David
Shaq's a
Greenwood
free agent. Hey, I'll go to L.A. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar forces a trade. Hey, we'll go to the Lakers. Lakers are so.
I think we got.
They came through and won, but man, they are lucky.
Yeah,
it's the best basketball market.
I don't think that Dwight Howard will end up with the Lakers either.
Really? I think so.
Clippers.
They'll get Dwight Howard. They'll get Dwight Howard. Let me say, I'm going to be on the record here, DT, Fred, Mark. They'll get Dwight Howard for Derek Fisher's expiring, and I don't know, who do they have? Barnes. There you go.
Genie Bus.
and
the right to talk to Phil Jackson in his Montana ranch.
They can only get Dwight Howard if they get him at the trade deadline this year. The new sign-and-trade rule in the collective bargaining agreement will prohibit them from completing a sign-and trade for Dwight Howard. Teams that are more than $4 million over the luxury tax can't do sign-and trades. So I don't believe that the Lakers will be eligible to do a sign-and trade for Dwight Howard next offseason, at which point Dwight Howard could only go there if he accepted a minimum contract.
Wow.
I could
which
potentially
will happen
be
because the Lakers are getting the luckiest.
I could be mistaken on the Lakers' luxury tax spot. I'm not entirely certain where their luxury tax is, so maybe it's possible they could get within $4 million of the luxury tax to not fit under that rule. But it also, I believe, the rule states that it's $4 million after the trade is completed, so they would need to send enough salary as part of it to make it work and still be under that limit. And maybe they could use the amnesty clause to get rid of someone to make it all work out. But I don't think that they can get Dwight Howard because of that rule. If I'm mistaken and the Lakers cap number is lower than I thought it was, then maybe they still could. But I think Kobe's making like $30 million or something next year, and Andrew Bynum's making like 15, and Odom's making 10, and Gasol's making 18. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to be over that limit and will not be able to do a sign and trade to get Dwight Howard, at which point they would need to get him at the trade deadline this year. And I don't think Orlando will be willing to ship him out this year. I think they're going to try and play hardball with him to try and keep him.
So who do you think he's going to go to?
Like I said, I think the Clippers and the Houston Rockets are 2 teams that make a lot of sense. The New Jersey Nets are also a possibility, but I would say the Rockets, Clippers would make the most sense to me. Maybe Dallas, I think he might want to go there too. I think Mark Cuban really has to be the most appealing owner in all of sports to play for, because he's shown that he'll do absolutely anything to win.
I don't know. You get free Sox tickets if you come to the Bulls.
You go to 35th and Shields and taking a Sox game, or go watch a disaster on the north side of the Cubs. Even though Theo will probably turn things around, but I'm not banking on it. It's the Cubs. But anyway, let's get back to the Bulls.
They will.
They
what
will.
about what do you guys? What's your opinion, you guys, about this talk about the Rondo for Chris Paul, which is the other big rumor that's out there today? Let's just say hypothetically that does go through. Does that vault the Celtics into our stratosphere, Miami's stratosphere?
If you're going off of that rumor, Fred, the rumors have already come out that Paul wouldn't re-sign with the Celtics. So if somebody started leaking, somebody from his camp was leaking towards the end of the day today that he wouldn't re-sign with the Celtics. So I'm sure that nothing would happen.
I'd still make the trade.
No way. Not if he's not going to re-sign there. What's the point?
Why not? They
have
shot to win a title.
1 year to win a title, and they got to rebuild anyway. So I could see Fred's point where you'd still make the trade and just, we can't keep Chris Paul, but we gave it our last best shot, and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett's end of their career. I think that if they made that trade and they got Chris Paul, that you would have to put the Boston Celtics at least at our level. I still think Miami is the favorite no matter what. I really don't know that there's anything any team can do outside of a team with a legitimate superstar landing Dwight Howard as well, getting up to Miami's level. I just don't think that there's anything else that can happen besides Dwight Howard like going to the Lakers or Dwight Howard going to the Bulls or Oklahoma City. I mean, like those are like the three things that could happen to put a team at Miami's level. Otherwise, I'm taking Miami this year over the field.
Wow.
Well, the good thing is everybody said this last year, though. Everybody said this last year.
Yeah, that was
they
one
did
of them.
get stopped. How damn good were they?
I said the Heat. Yeah, I said the Heat would win 70 games and win the championship. They almost pulled off the title. They got off to the bad start,
Yeah,
but
exactly. They came so close last year. So it's like, yeah, they didn't win last year. What are the odds that they're going to keep coming that close and not winning? I mean, when they wanted to be dominant, when they were really gelling, they were the best. They were the best team in the NBA. I mean, it's just hands down.
Doug said that too. In between his jokes about Dirk, he was always talking highly of the Heat. And I mean, look what happened though. I mean,
they lost.
One team with the superstar with great role players around it was able to just whip their ass.
But Dallas got lucky. I mean, let's be honest. Jason Terry shot like 80 billion%. You know, like Jason Terry, who's basically like Jamal Crawford or Nate Robinson or like some guy who shoots like 40% like his whole career, like goes in and just like all of a sudden plays like Ben Gordon in the fourth quarter in his rookie year and just like drills every 3-point shot that comes his way. You know, it's just like that could never happen again. And people say, oh, we need to go get a Jason Terry. Well, Jason Terry is not even Jason Terry like the other 12 years of his career. Like he had a career series. It was absolutely amazing. But I would bet $1 billion if the two teams played again today that Jason Terry would never be able to repeat that again. And, you know, it's the greatest thing ever that Dallas won. Yeah, it made me so happy because I love so many guys on the team and I hate the Heat so much. So it was just the greatest ending possible, except for the Bulls winning a championship, of course. But it was like the second best ending that could happen. But it's just not going to happen again with Dallas. And Miami already showed that they could manhandle us. I mean, I don't even think they put that much effort into beating us. And, you know, I don't see anyone else who's going to be able to beat them. I just don't see what other team can match up to them.
I agree with you, but I definitely disagree with your assessment of Jason Terry. I think Terry.
Here we go.
Here we go.
He's always been a great shooter. Last year was like the lowest point total. I mean, he was averaging for the majority of his career in the neighborhood of the high, teens going into like close to 20. The majority of his career. He's always been a pretty good scorer. He's always been Ben Gordon at the general peak of what Ben Gordon was for the most part.
Doug, I don't know if you were aware of this, but Mark went to Arizona. So
we forgot about that.
Can't devalue every
your thoughts on Mike Bibby, please. Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse.
He's got a Mike Bibby tattoo on his lower back. So
I will say this: I just looked up Jason Terry's stats, and I have underestimated him. He's better than I thought. His percentages were pretty decent.
Well, I agree with you.
45%, 38%.
Well, if Mark got to defend Jason Terry here, I want to take a minute and defend Nate Robinson. No, I'm kidding. Lower back tattoo. Yeah, the three great Arizona point guards. Mark has the lower back tattoo. We got Terry, we got Bibby, we got Stoudemire, Mighty Mouse. The holy trinity of Arizona point guards on Mark's lower back.
I'm going to venture to say that Jason Terry has been in the NBA one of the best players, if not the best player, to go to Arizona. I mean, who the hell's been better in the NBA? Maybe Sean Elliott's been better in the NBA, but other than that, Jason Terry, consistency year in, year out, 16 points for, 13-year career? Exactly.
Judd Bushler.
Lauren Woods.
We've hit a new low when we start
waxing
poetic about Arizona.
Richard Jefferson.
You guys will be talking about Derek Williams very soon.
Oh, gosh. No, I agree with you there. I think he's going to be awesome. But to finish up, let's wrap things up. First of all,
what do we get? What do we do? What do we need to do to get better? What can we do?
Yeah, let's talk real quick. I know you guys are first of all, the great one. Appreciate Doug, Invincible Kush for joining us for this because this is fantastic stuff. But really quick, the shooting guard, free agent shooting guards. You know, Doug, we kind of ran through that. Can we go over that list again? And don't yell at me again that Wilson Chandler can't play the 2 position.
He can't play in America. That's the problem.
What? Well,
he's signed in China,
right? The whole Denver Nuggets squad's in China, aren't they?
That's not a joke. That's real.
Free agents.
Yeah, that's real. You've got the Nuggets. I know for sure the Nuggets and the Hornets right now could not play a practice game scrimmage against their team because they have so few players. I mean, you're going to see a lot of movement come December 9th, no question about it. I don't know if there's any other teams out there that are as depleted as those two teams, but the Nuggets, 3 guys signed in China. They don't have out clauses. J.R. Smith tried to get out of his contract when the collective bargaining agreement was resolved, and he's stuck. He signed a contract over there, so did Wilson Chandler and Kenyon Martin. Aaron Brooks, too.
I will bet you all of those guys get out of their deals.
You think so?
If they want to. All you have to do is you have to realize, and this is kind of a weird personal metaphor, but like when you have people working for you and you have like a high-priced product and you have like a client who can like barely afford it, they are the biggest bitch ever because they demand so much because it's a huge percentage of their revenue. And then when you also sell the same product, like super high revenue clients, it's just like no big deal to them. Their expectations are really low because like to them, it's like, oh, whatever, $10,000, no big deal. So that's what's really going on in like China with these guys. You sign J.R. Smith to like $3 million, and it's just like that's like your whole roster normally, and you're giving it to J.R. Smith. All J.R. Smith has to do is like walk up to the coach and like flick him off a few times and like spit on someone's shoes. And they're gonna wave his ass because they don't want to put up with it. Because they need him to be like this superstar type player to make it even remotely make sense for them to pay him. And as soon as they cut him, they don't have to pay him anymore. So it's going to be trivial easy for any of those guys to get out of those deals if that's what they choose to do. All they have to do is dog it a little bit, say a few rude things, and they're gone because Chinese teams can't afford to pay these salaries if the players aren't going to put forth the effort.
And you're going to lose them anyway, and they start making a fuss in the media or what? Do they even have media out there?
I can picture J.R. Smith's press conference with the Chinese government-controlled media.
They probably blur out the tattoos on Kenyon Martin's neck during press conferences.
Probably get electroshocked every time he gives the wrong answer or something. It's got to be horrible over there. I mean, this has got to be, honestly, this has got to be a terrible situation, though. I mean, they got to have some fear they can't get out of this, right, Doug? You're that guy.
Like I said, J.R. Smith didn't get, like, trapped into his contract. He begged to, like, keep the contract a couple of days before the collective bargaining agreement was resolved. His Chinese team wanted to waive him, and he had to beg and grovel to stay. So he's like a half step away from just getting free if he wants to. And I'm sure
this is a guy I want as a 2-guard for the Bulls.
He is a guy I want as a 2-guard for the Bulls.
He's athletic.
He's a groveler.
He's a groveler.
He's athletic,
but he can handle that Chinese press corps, baby. No, I'd take J.R. Smith over what we have now. Why not?
He shoots threes. He has legit size. He's very athletic.
I want the Bulls to keep him the first time around when we had him. Was that in the Chandler trade?
That was
we wouldn't play him.
Didn't the Bulls just let him go or trade him for nothing?
Adrian Griffin.
Oh,
that's how we gave up J.R. Smith to get Adrian Griffin, the Hawk. So that was well worth it.
Really? But it wasn't well worth it those days that John Paxson wouldn't play him. He didn't play. He was on the team for like 3 weeks.
No, he didn't even play. It was the offseason. Then they get him, and
why would he want to come here? Why would he want? There's no way he'd want to come here.
J.R. Smith? Why not?
We totally disrespected him when he came to our team.
You don't disrespect.
2 days after we got him, Mark.
He deserves disrespect. The guy's cancer.
J.R. Smith.
He didn't leave. It was only 2 days that he was with us.
Chinese icon.
We brought him in as part of the Tyson Chandler trade, and we shipped him out 2 days later for cap space.
All right.
He never suited up. He never wore a Bulls uniform.
Practice.
Yeah, I don't think he cared.
He never.
They made it clear from the get-go that they didn't want him.
Well, I think J.R. Smith knew he had no role here. He was pissed that he had no minutes in New Orleans, and then he was going to come here and be behind Kirk Heinrich, Carlos Esplocha, Ben Gordon, and Chris Duhon, or have to compete with those 5 guys. Yeah, that wasn't a good situation for him.
He would have been our starting 2-guard, frankly.
The thing about him, though, I mean, people thought Ben Gordon's shot selection was poor. I mean, this guy defines it. I mean, as far as poor shot selection. I'm not a big fan.
But he's tall. He's taller than Ben Gordon, and that's what matters.
He can defend the taller.
What are the chances Kirk Heinrich comes back to the Windy City?
I'd say they're pretty good.
Next year, that would not surprise me at all. Atlanta's not going to amnesty Heinrich, so he's still going to be in Atlanta this year. But it would not surprise me at all if Kirk Heinrich was back. I know Kirk did not like being here, his final year here. He was anxious to leave.
Yeah.
But I also know that after he left and had to deal with Washington and Atlanta, that it wasn't so bad here after all.
And I think Ben Gordon is thinking the same thing right now.
I bet that he is.
Oh, my good
but
Lord.
Ben Gordon really didn't have a lot of choices. I mean, the Bulls clearly did not want to keep him.
Right. He wanted to get paid,
So-
and I knew he'd get paid, and the Pistons paid him, but man, what a disaster.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he have looked good in a Bulls uniform right about now?
Last
I
year,
love
I
that
would have
pick.
loved it. It would have been great.
I mean, I think it'll look a lot better for the Pistons as soon as Rip Hamilton is sent packing. I mean, that guy's he's developed into a cancer. And I don't understand why people want Rip Hamilton here. He's done. The guy sucks.
I know.
Why wouldn't you
He's
want a
another.
guy who just
He's another
shoot
Luol
pointers
Deng.
up girls?
He's another Luol Deng. Like, man, well, no, I take that back because Deng can actually hit threes now. I mean, all Rip Hamilton does is hit mid-range shots. I mean, you wouldn't.
Dang's a much better defender.
Oh, that's
I mean,
true. Yeah, exactly. That's why. Yeah, I rephrased that.
So he's like Luol Deng, who doesn't rebound, defend, or shoot threes.
Exactly.
So otherwise he gives you everything Luol Deng does.
Or provide the good influence in the locker room. I mean, that guy's, forming, forming a mutiny against his head coach. I mean, the guy.
Can you blame him?
That's
That
a
team
guy.
was a mess.
Yeah.
Detroit was a mess.
He'll start, missing his Detroit teammates, and he'll be texting, Jason Maxiell or something, having dinner before Game 2 against the Heat.
I don't think he'd be missing any
That's
of
what
them
I think
now.
Detroit's going to amnesty Gordon. If you ask me, if they'd amnesty anybody,
No, it has to be
they would amnesty
Villanueva.
Gordon.
It has to be
He's got the years on his
Villanueva.
contract.
If they amnesty anybody, it has to be Villanueva. He sucks. He's so
But
bad.
it won't amnesty anyone. And
you don't think so?
see, this is why I said it makes no sense for a team to amnesty a guy, because
Mhm.
why would Detroit amnesty someone? They're not paying the luxury tax.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to do with the cap space. And you can say Gordon hasn't lived up to his contract and CV hasn't lived up to his contract, but they're still playing. They're still somewhat capable players.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you get rid of them and then still have to pay them and then have
Right.
to add more salary just to meet the minimum salary? It
Exactly.
just makes no sense.
Yeah.
If they amnesty someone, it would be Hamilton, just because Hamilton's actively revolting against your coach. He's actively disruptive and destroying the team. Gordon and CV, maybe they're not doing as well as you wish they did, but they're not actively destroying the team and crushing your chemistry and making it impossible to rebuild and making it an untenable situation.
Right.
So I think if they amnesty someone, it would be Hamilton, but I don't think they'll amnesty anyone. I believe they've already announced that they're not going to amnesty anyone this year.
Because they're going to be
They're
bad.
gonna
Yeah,
be
you're right. Though. There's going to be
significantly
bad.
more under the cap, though. If they amnestied Gordon, they'd be like $28 million payroll next year, which would be, once you get rid of Rip Hamilton, you'd have a $28 million payroll a year earlier, which, that's a benefit to him. But I
But
guess
you
you're right.
could-
When
you
you're
could
under the
amnesty him
cap,
next
you're
year.
paying it anyway.
You amnesty him next year, though. You keep him this year. Why amnesty him right away? Because maybe he
Yeah.
rebuilt his trade value this year. He has a great year, and then you can trade him instead of amnestying him.
Right.
There's no incentive to make that move early.
So
He'll have a great year as long as they don't hire any more mentally challenged coaches like they've had the habit of doing lately.
Let's start Tracy McGrady ahead of Ben Gordon, the guy we gave this contract to, because Tracy McGrady is the future of our franchise.
Oh, he talked to
What the
Neil
hell?
Funk before he came over. Yeah, he talked to Neil Funk. He's a six man, all that nonsense. It was disgraceful how he was treated there. But but back to your other point about Heinrich, I can almost guarantee he'll be back here next year. I remember this still haunts me reading an article about Reinsdorf when he brought Baines back, Harold Baines as a coach. And then there was a big article about it, spring training, how Reinsdorf was sitting on the bench with a big smile on his face, and he's like, "It's great to have Bainesy back." And I remember thinking, you brought in a deaf mute to help coach. The guy's never talked his whole career. He's got a terrible swing. Honestly, I mean, what value is he bringing to the team? He makes you feel good because you got a warm space in your heart for him.
Didn't he retire his number 10
What's
years
Robin
before
Ventura,
he retired?
Yeah, you brought Robin Del Nego Ventura in. I mean, he's got to have it. He's got to have to bring those guys in that he loves, like that. He's got to bring them in. He loves-
Coaches,
I love it.
not players.
There's no problem, I think, in bringing Heinrich back anyway.
Oh.
I'd be happy to have him back. He wasn't a great player.
I just
It just would depend. You bring him back. You're not bringing him back at $10 million a year anymore.
That's
You're gonna bring him back at $2.5 million. To play backup point guard.
yeah, but then you got to hear Funk. I mean, that's the last thing I want to listen to is funk just over.
Well, that's your whole problem for having the volume on anyway. You got to turn that down. There's a dial there, Fred. You can.
I guess Heinrich at the minimum salary, I'd be fine with that.
I don't think it'll be the minimum, but it'd be like a few million, like three years, 10 million or something.
I love
Could be
that.
a guy-
Dainty line. That's awesome. Robin, Vinny Del Negro, Ventura.
So are we actually going to talk shooting guards?
Yeah.
We've
Talk about-
missed
sorry.
it. We've only been on for like an hour and 15 minutes without discussing the most important issue facing the Bulls today. So, good job for us there.
Doug, give us your top 3 in order. We'll go to Kush, we'll go to Mark, and I'll finish off.
We're only going to go with free agents.
Go
Who
with
do you think
whatever
is attainable? I think who you think could be attainable.
So I would say if I view as attainable, I'd say Andre Iguodala, Ben Gordon, and then probably J.R. Smith.
Any other free agents?
If I remove Iguodala and Gordon because they're not free agents, we actually have to trade for them. Then I would say I think I would take J.R. Smith, then Jason Richardson. No, I'll say then Nick Young and then Jason Richardson. Though Nick Young is iffy. He's a restricted free agent. Washington might match, or we might have to work out a sign and trade to get him. But I would like Nick Young. I like Aaron Aflalo a lot more than those guys, but I think that there's no way we can get him, whereas I view Nick Young as a restricted free agent that even though he's restricted, he's still obtainable. So that's why he's unlisted, and Aaron Aflalo is not on the list.
How much can we offer to for a free agent? What is doable?
$5 million for 4 years, basically, with 4.5% raises. It comes out to like maybe $21.5 million. Or
Does that put us into luxury tax territory?
It will in year 3. Well, it always depends on what else you do. It won't. This year, we will basically not be in the luxury tax almost no matter what. But then next year, with Rose's salary, we'll likely be in the luxury tax, and then year 3, it'll be very difficult. So,
what's your thoughts, Kush?
I would like to have Ben Gordon back because I still believe he didn't forget how to play basketball. I just think he's been in a god awful situation. He chose that situation because he wanted the money, and I understand that. But if we had to go with the free agents, I'd probably take Smith. I want a guy who can shoot, and Smith can, and he gets hot. He's a streaky shooter. But and wasn't the game against the Bulls when he hit like 6 threes in the fourth quarter? I still remember that game. Stands out for me. But
that was actually. Larry Hughes was traded, and that was the day he didn't play, and that was Gordon had 39
so if Larry Hughes would have played, that wouldn't have happened.
No,
Larry Hughes is lockdown man. He was second team all defense in 2004.
That's true. I forgot about that. Holy cow, that's right. He was second team all defense. That's true. And he had height, so that's why he was better. That's right. So yeah, I'll say obtainable guy. Yeah, I kind of like Iguodala would be interesting too. Actually, I kind of like Jason Richardson too. But, we'll see.
Is Jason Richardson going to be more than a $5 million a year? He's got to be, right?
I think with Richardson,
Richardson's a free agent, is he?
Right.
It comes down to if Orlando is trying to keep Dwight Howard, then I think they sign Richardson because he's a good player there. But if they've already kind of decided, we already know this is going to go against us, then I think they let Richardson go elsewhere. And in that case, I think he probably does sign somewhere for the MLE.
He's 33 years old, so I can't see him getting that much money. I mean, he wasn't he was not knockout good last year.
He's 33?
He's 30. I just went to his page right now. That's why 30? I know. Yeah, 30. January 20th. He just turned 30 actually in January. Or no, he will turn 30. He'll turn 31 in a month or 2 months.
Mark only has Arizona guys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. How old is Damon Stoudemire? Come on.
Are you taking Iguodala, Mark?
I forgot about him.
Actually, no. I would say
all right.
Attainable guy. Well, free agents. I'm going Jamal Crawford, guys. If I could get any of the free agents out there, I mean, I think he's going to be expensive. Money's an issue, obviously, and if I don't think he's worth like $10 million a year, but depending on what he would, if you could get him for what we could, give out, I'd be all for Jamal Crawford. Trades. I mean, if I think guys who you could maybe get via trade, I think maybe you could get Monta Ellis or Kenyon Martin, who are two really good two guards. Who maybe
Martin's
you could
a free agent. Sorry, I was thinking the wrong Martin.
Kevin Martin? Okay, he's like Kevin.
Yeah,
my bad.
I would not be opposed. I think right now there is an abundance of front court depth in the NBA. So if you were trading somebody like Joakim Noah, plus we got Ashik and we got Taj Gibson. If you were able to somehow trade Noah or Boozer and package something else, and we're able to get maybe Dang Ellis or Martin, you'd be able to replace those positions easier than it is to get an elite 2 guard. So I'd be all for it. Otherwise, if you could get Aaron Afalo, I think he'd be great. As you know, he's about the lowest level I'd be willing to go there, because it's just like otherwise, it's like just stick with Bogans and ride this thing out and wait until you have the opportunity to get better at that position. I think you either hit a home run, or if you can cheaply do a solid improvement, do it. Otherwise, go for the home run. Nothing in between. Don't give out some long-term contract to somebody who's not the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I love Iguodala. I think he's phenomenal. He's a fantastic defensive player, but he doesn't hit the three to the rate that I think would be needed. You really want to have a guy that can extend the floor with Rose out there. I mean, so that guy obviously be Gordon. I'd love Gordon, but half the fan base hates him. I don't even want to have to go back to that era and have to deal with all the nonsense we did for all those Steve T. Gorches of the world and all these other guys.
Fred, I tell you, you're my brother in arms on that.
Yeah, I mean,
God, you have this guest on our show who is gracious enough to come onto our show, and you just freaking skewer him for years. He was on the show like 3 years ago.
Yeah, we gotta get him back on. I think it'd be a lot more.
I'm sure he's an avid listener now.
No, and then a follow I love.
We don't have guests anymore, Fred.
Maybe you could talk about Ben Gordon now, Fred.
Stephen T. Gordon.
Wonder how that conversation would go this time around.
I'd be happy to defend Gordon. I mean, I still can. I know people don't believe in him anymore.
You still can. You just don't look very bright while doing it anymore.
Let's go on to the next guy I want to bring in. I love Richardson too. I'm not a fan of J.R. Smith. I think he's the antithesis of everything we'd want on the team as far as being a team player. Horrible shot selection. Not always, sometimes plays D, sometimes doesn't. Just wouldn't fit in with the ethic of the team. I think a follow would, and but we're not going to get him. The fact is, we're not going to get any of these guys. I mean, I just hope everybody's realistic about it. All you got to do, promote Brewer to the starting lineup. You back him up with Korver. You back him up with the new guy, Jimmy Butler. I think he's going to be a pleasant surprise for the team, and we'll see. We'll see where we end up. I think we're still going to be really good, and I think we could. I still believe, we could win the East without making any major movements. So, but I guess I'm insane.
Question for the floor then. So you see all these rumors lately about the Bulls pursuing guys which I would view as pure small forwards to solve our shooting guard challenge. Shane Battier, Grant Hill, Karam Butler, Tayshaun Prince. I'm trying to think of a couple of the other names I've seen in reference to the team. What do you guys think about the idea of trying to bring in one of these guys? I don't know if the thought is Luol Deng's going to play shooting guard, or if this other guy's going to play shooting guard, or if it just doesn't matter in our offense. But what are your thoughts about having maybe one of those guys come in to fill in the shooting guard void?
No.
They're all elite defenders.
We need more offense. I think we need more offense. So if that's the option we have to do, to bring in somebody who can average, upwards of 17, 18 points a game versus somebody who's averaging like 6 or 7. If it's a short-term solution where you're not giving a huge contract, I think it could be a good idea and a good short-term plan. But I think as far as the long-term plan goes, no, because first, Deng's never playing the shooting guard position. Whoever comes in here is going to be the guy playing shooting guard, because Deng can't create his own shot. So he'd have to be a good scorer, and he'd have to be somebody who's really good enough at scoring. I think a couple of those guys are. But, like Tayshaun Prince, for example, though, I don't think he is. And I don't think that he's at a stage in his career where he would be a good compliment to Deng. But, maybe
Butler,
maybe I would agree.
Why do you feel we need a guy that has to score and create his own shot?
I think we desperately need a shot creator.
What's that?
I think Rose has all the offenses on Rose. All the shot creation, when you need some buckets, we always go to Rose. And that's why even like when we talk about a guy like Ben Gordon, I think if you could somehow, have that kind of a guy on the team again, the fact that he was able to, the clutch thing was great, but you don't need that as much with Rose. But the fact that he could turn it on, he could feel the pace of the game, and when he needed to score, when the team was down a little bit, our offense was more productive than it probably should have been, because we had a guy like that. And, somebody like that who could just, score when you needed to, which is what Terry did for the Mavericks in the playoffs. I mean, there's only one basketball. So, only Wade or LeBron is going to be shooting at any given time. So if somebody can just fill in that void when Rose isn't, because Rose can't shoot every point on the team, if there's somebody who could just kind of take off the pressure, make sure that our team doesn't go into a gigantic funk when Rose isn't scoring, particularly well or just isn't in the game maybe, I think it would do wonders for our offense.
You need more than one shot creator. I mean, ultimately. The Bulls had one shot creator last year. That was Derrick Rose. No one else could really create their own shot. You need more than one guy who can do it.
Who did that on Dallas last year? Who was the other shot creator?
Jason Terry created his own shot.
No, he
Barea created his own shot.
Yeah,
created his own shot.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Terry last year
had a lot of shot creators.
Plus, everyone on the team
was
was dangerous. Everyone on that offense was dangerous.
And now you got
if they couldn't create their own shot, everyone's dangerous. We always have like one guy or two guys on our floor who aren't dangerous. If you have five guys who are dangerous, even if they can't all create their shot, I think that's fine. But we typically have one or two guys on the floor who is not dangerous at all.
Right.
Agreed. There were times when it's who the hell are you going to pass the ball to? I mean, who's going to score right now? The team would go into droughts, and it was just, I hope our defense can keep us going until Derrick Rose comes back in the game. And it can't be like that. You can't have so many unproductive offensive players. Noah's completely unproductive. Taj Gibson's not very good offensively. Ronnie Brewer and Keith Bogans are two guards, and they play a lot at the two guard, and neither of the two of them are good offensively. I mean, that's right there. That's four players on our roster that are they're not good offensive players to begin with. We need more guys that consistently shoot. And then you get Boozer contributing the way that he should be and Dane contributing the way that he should be, and we should have a pretty good offensive team. But so often last year, we were not good offensively. And it was all because, we don't have anybody else that we can rely on to score. That's why we're nowhere near Miami.
I just felt like Korver wasn't on the court enough. I know people say he didn't hit any shots, and that's true. He wasn't very good in the Miami series, but even when he's not hitting, just the fact of him standing out there does wonders for the offense.
So destroyed defensively.
I still remember that.
They just ran like the Wade LeBron pick and roll on Korver over and over, and it was just the ugliest, most helpless thing. He just looked like me on the basketball court or something. Just like he had like no chance at all.
I still remember that fast break when it was LeBron charging full speed, and the only guy that was back was Kyle Korver. I feared for his life.
He never played. He got pulled after that play. He didn't play for the rest of the fourth. He didn't play the entire fourth quarter or the entire overtime. That was game, I think, 4-3. I mean, my point about that, I agree with you, Doug. He did get torched in game 2. He didn't play at the end of game 5. He didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. He didn't play at the end of game 4. He didn't play at the end of the game. When LeBron was scoring every possession at the end of game 5, he was doing it on Brewer. He's doing it on Dang. When they start getting in that mode like that, it doesn't matter who's on him. You better match him offensively. And what he brings on the court on the offensive end is spacing, which none of those other guys bring. I mean, looking at the tape again, it's just amazing how Wade just roaming free. No, it doesn't even care. It doesn't even pay attention to if it's Brewer out there or if it's Bogans out there or if it's Dang out there. It's just 2-on-1. It's just guarding Rose and making sure that he doesn't get to the hoop, and he's forcing him to either give it up, and nobody else can punish him for that. At least Korver, when he's out there, you have to pay attention to him because if he's got an open three, more often than not, he's going to hit it.
He shot 28% from the series, and Miami seemed to have no problem at all catching up to him when he got the ball and forcing him into bad shots. So, while I agree in general,
stop Korver, you can do it because he can't beat anybody off the dribble, but you still got to stop him.
They weren't. Miami has such quick recovery speed that they just seem to have little effort to cover up on him. I don't think that he was creating the impact he did at other points in the year. I mean, I generally, I agree with you that Korver needed to play more because he offered so much spacing. But I just think against Miami, it was not working, and I don't think it was going to work. And I think they showed that he made it impossible to stop the Heat defensively.
You make a really good point. I mean, that is definitely true. You can see it on the tape. It's amazing how quickly LeBron and how quickly Wade close out on people at the three-point line. It's undescribable how fast they are doing that. I mean, Dang, the big reason he was 0 for 5 is because I like to just tear him up out of his performance in the fourth quarter, but you could tell he was rushing shots because he had LeBron sprinting full speed out at him. So anyhow, we should probably wrap this baby up. We've been talking forever, but it's been really good. I can't thank you guys enough. The three legends here and Mark, and really appreciate it. It's been really a lot of fun.
I'll take that one in stride.
The three.
So, do you want any final thoughts about predictions of how the team's going to do?
We got a
Record-wise?
66-game season. I got to do some math.
I was going to say 60. I would say we're going to still win 62 games this year. 62 and 4.
Let's give prorated totals. So if you say whatever 55, it's assuming whatever prorated 55 is. So we all can be incompetent at math and still give predictions.
Good point.
I think they're healthy. So I think the fact that they're healthy going into the year, knock on wood. Let's hope that Boozer doesn't walk near any luggage over the course of the next 30 days. And as long as that happens and everybody comes in healthy, I frankly think we should be a lot better. We should really be a lot better offensively if Carlos Boozer plays well out of the gate. And, we really did play really, really well for a few stretches when Noah was playing like Joakim Noah can play and Boozer was playing the way that Boozer could play. It didn't happen. We didn't have a lot of opportunities to do it last year. But when it happened, which was only a couple times, they played really well. So, frankly, I think that, could they still have the best record in the East? Potentially, maybe. But I think that, going into the playoffs, I think they'll be the 2 seed out of the East. And, I think they'll go out in the Eastern Conference Finals again unless they make a dramatic change in getting either a better 2-guard or getting a little bit more depth with scoring.
So your win total?
I don't know, somewhere around maybe 55.
Prorated?
50? I don't know. I mean,
I think the Bulls will be like 50 and 16 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe a little bit under 50. Yeah, 50, 52, somewhere around there, maybe. I still haven't seen the schedule, so I don't know how many games are they missing.
Yeah, they're really they're cutting.
Get a shift who they're playing.
Yeah, they're They're cutting back on the Western Conference schedule. It's going to be heavily Eastern Conference teams too, which would probably help them. So.
Yeah, our division sinks. So if it's heavily weighted in favor of our division, we lost one game in our entire division.
No circus trip in November, obviously. I don't know if they'll still have that February trip. I know there's going to be times, they said every team's going to at least have once or twice where they're going to have to play the back-to-back games, the 3 consecutive nights, which we only saw in 99 because of the lockout. So it should be an interesting year, fitting 66 games and whatever time span it's going to be. Christmas to April 26th.
I think that they should probably average more wins this year. So, yeah, 55 is probably high, but maybe 50 games. I definitely think 50, 52, which, they should be on at least as good of a pace as they were last year. They're not going to have the surprise of Derrick Rose that they had last year, but they had a lot of things against their favor last year. They were able to overcome a lot of obstacles, which was impressive.
Doug, your suggestion, keeping in mind that Mark ignored your suggestion, the prorate.
Well, just because you guys, we're talking, I decided to whip out Windows calculator, and basically 50 games prorates to 62 last year. So by predicting 50, you're predicting similar win percentages last year. So I'm going to say 46 games, 46 wins, a little bit less than last year's pace. I think they probably won't push quite as hard in some ways this year. And maybe they seem worn out and beaten down when playoff time came around. I think maybe they'll be a little more cognizant of that. With all the back-to-back-to-backs, I think you'll lose a couple more games because you're more fatigued on different nights. And, I just don't think they're going to quite have the same win total. But I'm already in the Dallas mindset. If I don't give a crap what they do in the regular season, just get me to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter. We were 3-0 against Heat in the regular season, lost to them in the playoffs. It just doesn't matter to me what we do in the regular season. It matters to me what we do in the playoffs now. We're obviously going to be one of the top 3 seeds. I think certainly one of the top 2, but if not the top 3. So that's a position that you can win out of, and you just need to get to the playoffs. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm going to say a little bit less too, probably around 45, 46. Not because I don't think they're better. I just think it's more likely that Deng is going to get hurt. Be a miracle if he's healthy all year, especially with the way, Thibodeau thinks he's Walter Payton or something, the way that he plays them, and he's not going to miss games. He's going to miss games. And also, the East is better. You're going to have Carmelo with the Knicks for a full year. Basically, you're going to have New Jersey, which really never had a chance, to really kind of fit Williams in there. He'll be there all year. And
Jersey's going to suck, dude.
There's probably this Illinois bias. Darren Williams is going to be there for a full season, so surely they'll turn that 11-win total around or whatever they won last year.
How dare you, Doug? That's
He had 50 points the other night against Greece.
Shanghai Giants, or whatever the hell they played. No, wait, he's not. No, he's in Turkey.
I love
he's in Turkey.
Darren
Never mind.
I love Darren Williams, but he's not enough.
But, I still just think the East is going to be better. I think Indiana, was kind of a young team last year, should be a little bit better. We'll see what happens.
Us.
What?
They're not going to challenge us. So the Nets are a little bit better. So the Indiana Pacers are a little bit better. So the Toronto Raptors are a little better. We should still be able to sweep all those teams during the regular season.
Boston and Orlando are going to be worse.
We're going to lose a game.
I would agree with that.
Going to be better, so the Bulls are going to win 4 less games.
Hold on a second. Why is Boston going to be worse with a shorter season?
Because
playing 3 straight nights for them, that's going to be a rough one.
Everyone on that team is going to be a little bit worse this year because they're at the point where their skills decline.
I've been saying that about Ray Allen for like 3 years. I think he's got one. They all got one last gasp.
I guess that when Ray Allen's 75, you'll have said it for like 50 years, right? It's not ever going to happen because you said it for the past 3 years.
I love Ray Allen. He's a real deal. I'll be damned if you're going to diss on Ray Allen on this show. He's a little class act on that team.
Speak ill of Ray Allen.
He's actually the only Celtic I like.
All right, I mean, that said, the whole point is I think they'll have about 45, for pace, somewhere around 56. And you're right. I think they're going to challenge Miami. They'll get to the finals, and we'll see what happens. I think they'll go 7 games. They'll probably lose, but at least I believe they have a shot at winning. If Thibodeau can just get his act together, have Brewer in the starting lineup, stop babying, put Korver out there a little bit more in the 4th. What else advice can I give him? Get a beret? Wear a beret in the 4th. I think that'd be an awesome move. That's about it. I think Butler's going to be better than you guys think, too. Nobody's giving this kid a chance. This guy was really solid in the Big East. He's going to be a nice addition to the team. I think Butler's going to be a pleasant surprise. We'll see what happens. So I say 45.
I'm going to say this real fast. I actually think Boston does have one more run because Pierce is only 34. He just turned 34. Garnett's 35. His skills were deteriorating quite a bit last year, but if he can play somewhere near, be just as angry and play somewhere near that level.
He's angry.
Ray Allen's 36.
He curses a lot.
When 36 years old.
He bangs his chest and curses.
Did you see how angry he was when he yelled at that owner? He's ready to play.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He was the most defiant one of them all in the lockout. But he could have a season left in him, and Ray Allen at 36 maybe. But because Pierce is only 34, I think maybe they have a shot of maybe doing it one more time.
Young.
Well, as long as you got at least one guy who's 34 or younger, you still have a shot, right?
Yeah, right. I mean,
but with Rondo, the average age of the team's only 33.
They won 56 games last year. I mean, they are going to be worse, but I don't think they'll drop to like a 6th seed or something. They'll still be up in they'll probably still be hosting a first-round playoff series, maybe. That's bad. I guarantee.
I agree. I don't think Boston's terrible. I just think they'll be worse. I think Orlando will be worse.
What New York?
Of the elite teams, the only teams I think will be improved will be Chicago and Miami, and then maybe New York takes a step from like cellar dweller, bottom seed to pseudo elite team. I think those are maybe the 3 best teams in the East next year. I think Orlando just too much turmoil with Dwight Howard's situation, and in Boston, I think this is the year they fell off the wagon. I think when they lost to Miami in the playoffs, I think that was it for them. They knew Miami was going to get better this year. They knew they were going to get worse. I think that was like demoralizing, and I think they're going to fold this year.
It's like, look, guys, we're old. We're not going to beat these guys. Let's just hang it up while we can.
I think Milwaukee's got
like an internal mindset of that. Like, not that you actually say that to yourself out loud, but that there is kind of like this thought of, you go to the gym and you see a bunch of young guys playing, and you realize they're way more athletic and better than you. And I just think that they're just not going to be able to compete.
That sounds like our days of playing ball at the Y in Schaumburg. I am the Ron Mercer of Schaumburg, by the way.
Speak for yourself,
the old one there.
Kush, you were the Othello Harrington.
Oh, that's right. I'm the white Othello Harrington. How could I forget that?
Kush was the white Dale Ellis.
Thanks. I'll take that over Othello Harrington. Were you heartbroken when Dale Ellis knocked off Craig Hodges in the 1989 3-point shootout? Did that make you cry?
I've blocked that out of my memory. I don't acknowledge that because the following year, What he hit about 15 straight. You
I think
remember
it
that
was 18, yeah,
performance?
91 in Charlotte. I think it was 18 in a row. I think he hit the first 3 racks and the 3 on the 4th one, I believe.
All you youngsters can YouTube that
Ah, jeez.
and openly start weeping right around the 14th consecutive
Cliff
shot.
Cliff
You'll get
Livingston was
realization.
openly weeping there, I think.
What?
Well, Cliff Livingston was there as a cheerleader. Go look at the highlight. It's on the 91 Bulls learning the fly. I watch that because I have the Bulls DVD set, and I watch those when I'm on the treadmill. So I pop one of them in, jog on my treadmill for an hour, and watch the entire thing. So
What a team player. That really says something about Livingston.
yes, it does. He won a free trip to Charlotte, so he won.
No, but finally, to wrap it up, I want to just hear your prediction for the West. Let's get this on tape.
Boy.
Who's coming out?
Oklahoma.
I was going to say the Thunder. You stole my thunder, Doug.
Yeah.
Well, we all agreed with you earlier in the show, so
Yeah,
Mark?
Minnesota
no, I agree with
Timberwolves.
Doug.
I gotta go Thunder. Yeah, I think the West are gonna It's gonna be a dramatic drop off this year in the West. You're not gonna have the depth anymore in the West that you've had in the past. Oklahoma City. I mean, Dallas. Maybe Dallas and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I'm going to give it Dallas one more time. I think the Lakers are going to be done now that they Kobe, I think, will have a good year.
Once the Lakers get Dwight Howard, it's surely going to be the Lakers. It's going to happen somehow. I know, Doug, the numbers make sense and logically, but, I just somehow, some way, Dwight Howard's going to end up on that basketball team. They'll put in a new rule. Maybe they'll make an amendment to the CBA. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
As soon as he comes back, if Howard's there, then Phil Jackson won't be far behind. Because he's always attractive.
He's going to call Dwight Howard up to the house in Montana and help him move logs like he did with Shaq or whatever the hell that was. Did you ever read Shaq's book? I think it was called Shaq Talks Back, and he talks about how he went up to Phil's Montana ranch and Phil put him through all these trials and whatnot. It was interesting.
He has a new book now that just came out last week.
Why didn't Jackson do that with Corzine? Jordan might have won 2 more titles. Jordan might have won titles in '87.
Dave Corzine through the workout Rocky did in Moscow. The KGB is going to chase you, Dave. Take off.
Corzine was one of those guys in the car following Stallone. And when he's running up the mountain. Anyhow. All right, guys. Hey, man, thanks for joining the show. Mark, you want to wrap it up with our signature byline? First one. Great one, Doug Tonis. Listen to him at bullsbeat.com. You can also download it at iTunes, Bullsbeat. If there's anybody listening to the show that somehow doesn't listen to Doug's show, I don't know who you are, but God bless you. Also, Kush, I got to come out of retirement. Can you please take this moment here to announce you're coming out of retirement?
Are you going to kiss my ass the way Ahmad Rashad did during the whole Jordan ceremony? Can you come back one more time, MJ? Holding the shoes. No, I'm not going to come out of retirement. Things are going to pick up for me a little bit in a couple weeks, so I'm probably not going to be coming out of retirement. Sorry.
Okay.
Very fortunate to hear. Thanks again, as Fred, just to reiterate Fred's statement. Thanks a lot, guys, for jumping on today. It's always fun to have you guys on the show. A lot of good insight. I'm excited to have the basketball season back. I know all you guys are excited too. What is it, 25 days now until the start of the season?
Sure.
I know this is going to be, as a person who celebrates Hanukkah and has never really been somebody who's been able to celebrate Christmas before, Christmas has always been a very depressing day for me. It's Chinese restaurants and being able to not really go anywhere else because everywhere is closed. So to have something to look forward for this Christmas, guys, I'm really excited. Game time.
Beautiful. First
Awesome.
Bulls Christmas Day
Thanks a
game
lot.
since Bulls Heat in December '97. It'll be nice.
And it's opening day.
Exactly.
I mean, the two of those things together, freaking beautiful. And now that we're an elite team again, where we belong to be, we've got a decade more of Derrick Rose, guys, so it starts in 25 days. Let's enjoy it. But thanks a lot, guys, for jumping on the show. And until next time, guys, if it ain't Bulls,
Hey, basketball.